The the advantage of deceitfulness. As indwelling sin is unsearchable, so it is deceitful. As in the place above mentioned, the heart is deceitful above all things, incomparably so. In Jeremiah 17:9, there is great deceit in the dealings of men in the world, great deceit in their counsels and contrivances in reference to their affairs, private and public, great deceit in their words and actings. The world is full of deceit and fraud. But all this is nothing to the deceit that is in man's heart towards himself. For that is the meaning of the expression in this place, not towards others. Now, incomparable deceitfulness added to unsearchableness gives a great addition and increase of strength to the law of sin upon the account of its seat and subject. I speak not yet of the deceitfulness of sin itself, but the deceitfulness of the heart where it is seated. There are 7 abominations in the heart. Proverbs 26:25, that is, not only many, but an absolute complete number, as 7 denotes, and they are such abominations as consist in deceitfulness. Therefore, the caution foregoing implies trusting not, for it is only deceit that should make us not to trust in that degree and measure of which the object is capable. In Proverbs 26:25, when he speaketh fair, believe him not, for there are 7 abominations in his heart. These 6 things doth the Lord hate, yet 7 are an abomination unto him. Proverbs 6:16. A proud look, a lying tongue, and hands that shed innocent blood, and heart that deviseth wicked imaginations, feet that be swift to run into mischief, a false witness that speaketh lies, and he that soweth discord among brethren. For even thy brethren and the house of thy father, even they have dealt treacherously with thee. Yeah, they have called a multitude after thee. Believe them not, though they speak fair words unto thee. Thorns. 7 abominations compared, Proverbs 26:16. Note, here 7 retains perhaps its significance as the symbol of completeness. Evil has, as it were, gone through all its work and holds its accursed Sabbath in the heart, in which all things are very evil. Bridgeway Bible Commentary. Fools and troublemakers. 26:1-28. Only a fool honors a fool, and only a fool curses another without cause. Such a curse cannot come true. People with wisdom know on which occasions to ignore a fool, and on which occasions to answer him. Fools cannot be trusted. For them, proverbs are useless as paralyzed legs, and honor is as useless as a tongue tied to the sling that is supposed to throw it out. Fools with a little knowledge can be dangerous. As employees, they can create trouble for their fellow workers, but a conceited person is worse than a fool. Always making excuses, too lazy to get out of bed or help themselves. Lazy people nevertheless think they know everything. All communities have their troublemakers, busybodies, double talkers, who, when they see the damage they have done, say they were only joking. Gossips, without whom many quarrels will have ended long ago. And smooth talkers whose pleasant words hide their evil intentions. Having ruined others, the troublemakers finally ruin themselves. He that hateth dissembled with his lips. Clandestine hatred, it is often greatly disguised. Burning lips and a wicked heart are like potsherd covered with silver dross. It is excessively corrupt. When he speaketh fair, believe him not, for there are 7 abominations in his heart. The word number 7 in Scripture denotes fullness or completeness. The idea here is that such a man's heart is full of abominations. It is liable to exposure, whose hatred is covered by deceit. His wickedness shall be shown before the whole congregation. Dissembling never answers in the end. The providence of God brings dark deeds to light. All sin will one day be stripped of its mask and laid bare in all its putrescent hideousness to the open eye of the universe. It is self-ruinous, whose diggeth a pit shall fall therein. Evil is hard worker. It digs pits and rolls stones. And what is worse, all his hard work is self-ruinous. Into the pit which they have dug, they shall tumble. Those who plot mischief for others will be overwhelmed with it themselves. Moab, in attempting to curse Israel, fell himself under the curse of God. Haman's gallows for Mordecai was his own promotion of shame. The enemies of Daniel were devoured in the ruin which they plotted against him. Thus does God take the wise in his craftiness, the wicked in his wickedness. The malice that meditates that evil is often the cause of its own overthrow. It is socially pernicious. A lying tongue hated those that are afflicted by it, and flattering mouth worketh ruin. It injures by its slanders. A lying tongue hated those that are afflicted by it. It injures by flatteries. Flattery is a social curse. By injuring others, we are ourselves often the greatest sufferers. The wasp sting is provided with a barb, and when he feels particularly vicious and drives the sting into the flesh, it becomes so firmly embedded that the only way for him to escape is to leave the sting behind. This, however, is sure to cause his death. He received himself such a wound that he cannot recover. We sometimes forget that when we hurt others by stinging words and treacherous acts, we ourselves, in the long run, are generally the greatest sufferers. When he speaketh fair, for there are such hypocrites and false friends in the world, believe him not, let all his professions go for nothing. For there are 7 abominations in his heart, that is, he is full of abominations. Psalm 12:2. They speak vanity, every one with his neighbor. With flattering lips and with a troubled heart do they speak. Psalm 28:3. Draw me not away with the wicked and with the workers of iniquity, which speak peace to their neighbors, but mischief is in their hearts. Jeremiah 9:2-8. Oh, that I had in the wilderness a longing place of wayfaring men, that I might leave my people and go from them, for they be all adulterers, an assembly of treacherous men. And they bend their tongues like their bow for lies, but they are not valiant the truth, for the truth upon the earth, for they proceed from evil to evil, and they know not me, saith the Lord. Take ye heed every one of his neighbor, and trust ye not in any brother, for every brother will utterly supplant, and every neighbor will walk with slanders, and they will deceive every one his neighbor, and will not speak the truth. They have taught their tongue to speak lies, and weary themselves to commit iniquity. Thine habitation is in the midst of deceit. Through deceit they refuse to know me, saith the Lord. Therefore thus saith the Lord of hosts, behold, I will melt them and try them, for how shall I do for the daughter of my people? The tongue is as an arrow shot out. It speaketh deceit. One speaketh peaceably to his neighbor with his mouth, but in heart he layeth his weight. Micah 7:5. Trust ye not in a friend, put ye not confidence in a guide. Keep the doors of thy mouth from her that lieth in thy bosom. Matthew 24:23. Then if any man shall say unto you, Lo, here is Christ, or there, believe it not. How the heart is deceitful. This deceitfulness of the heart, by which it is exceedingly advantage in his harboring of sin, lies chiefly in these two things. Contradictions. The deceitfulness of the heart lies in its abounding in contradictions, so that it is not to be found and dealt with according to any constant rule and way of procedure. There are some men that have much of this in their conduct, from their natural constitution or from other causes. They seem to be made up of contradictions, sometimes to be very wise in their affairs, sometimes very foolish, very open and very reserved, very moldable and very obstinate, very easy to be entreated and very revengeful, all to a remarkable degree. This is generally accounted a bad character and is seldom found but when it proceeds from some notable predominant lust. But in general, in respect of moral good or evil, duty or sin, it is so with the heart of every man, flaming hot and cold as a metal key, weak and yet stubborn, obstinate and moldable. The frame of the heart is ready to contradict itself every moment. Now, you might think you are completely characterized by a particular frame, a particular way. Soon it is quite otherwise, so that no one knows what to expect from it. The rise of this is a disorder that is brought upon all the heart's faculties by sin. God created all these faculties in a perfect harmony and union. The mind and reason were in perfect subjection and subordination to God and His will. The will answered in its choice of good, the discovery made of it by the mind. The affections constantly and evenly follow the understanding and will. The mind's subjection to God was the spring of the orderly and harmonious motion of the soul and all the wills in it. However, the heart being disturbed by sin, the rest of the faculties now move cross and contrary one to another. The will chooses not the good that the mind discovers. The affections delight not in that which the will chooses, but they are all ajar and interfere, cross and rebel against each other. This we have got by our falling away from God. Therefore, sometimes the will leads and the judgment follows. Yea, the affections which should be subservient to all commonly get the sovereignty and draw the whole soul captive after them. Therefore it is, as I said, that the heart is made up of so many contradictions in its acting. Sometimes the mind retains its sovereignty, the affections are in subjection, and the will is ready for its duty. This puts a good face upon things. Immediately the rebellion of the affections or the obstinacy of the will takes place and prevails, and the whole scene is changed. This, I say, makes the heart deceitful above all things. It agrees not at all in itself, is not consistent with itself, has no order that is consistent with and is under no certain conduct that is stable. Instead, if I may so say, it has a rotation in itself, where often the feet lead and guide the whole. Full promises. The heart's seat lies in the full promisings upon the first appearance of things, and this also proceeds from the same principle with the former. Sometimes the affections are touched and wrought upon. The whole heart appears in a fair frame, and all promises to be well. Within a while, the whole frame is changed. The mind was not at all affected or turned. The affections a little acted their parts and are gone off, and all the fair promises of the heart are departed with them. Summary. Now, add this deceitfulness to the unsearchableness before mentioned, and we shall find that at least the difficulty of dealing effectively with sin in its seat and throne will be exceedingly increased. A deceiving and deceived heart, who can deal with it, especially considering that the heart employs all its deceits in the service of sin. It contributes them all to its furtherance. All the disorder that is in the heart, all its false promises and fair appearances, promote the interests and advantages of sin. Therefore, God cautions the people to look to it, lest their own hearts should entice and deceive them. Who can mention the treacheries and deceits that lie in the heart of men? It is not for nothing that the Holy Ghost so expresses it. The heart is deceitful above all things, uncertain in what it does, and false in what it promises. And moreover, it is due to this cause, among others, that in pursuing our war against sin, we have not only the old work to go over and over, but new work till while we live in this world. We have still new stratagems and wiles to deal with, as a manner will be where unsearchableness and deceitfulness are to be contended with. Other properties. There are many other properties of deceit and subject of the law of sin that might be insisted on to the same aim and purpose, but that would divert us too far from our particular design, and therefore I shall pass this over with some few considerations. Never ending. First, never let us reckon that our work in contending against sin, in crucifying, mortifying, and subduing it, is at an end. The place of its habitation is unsearchable. When we may think that we have thoroughly won the field, there is still some reserve remaining that we saw not, that we knew not of. Many conquerors have been ruined by their carelessness after a victory. In the same way, many have been spiritually wounded after great success against his enemy. David was so. His great surprise into sin was after a long profession, many experiences of God, and watchful keeping himself from his iniquity. And due to this, in part, it has come to pass that the profession of many has declined in their old age or riper time, which must more distinctly be spoken about later. They have given up the work of mortifying sin before their work was at an end. There is no way for us to pursue sin in its unsearchable habitation, but by being endless in our pursuit. And that command of the apostle which we have on this account is as necessary for them to observe who are towards the end of their race, as those that are but at the beginning of it. Mortify therefore your members which are upon the earth. Colossians 3:5. Ephesians 4:22. That ye put out concerning the former conversation the old man which is corrupt according to the deceitful lust, and be renewed in the spirit of your mind. Ephesians 5:3. But fornication and all uncleanness or covetousness, let it not be once named among you as becometh saints. Ephesians 5:5. For this ye know that no whoremonger, nor unclean person, nor covetous man, who is an idolater, had any inheritance in the kingdom of Christ and of God. 1 Thessalonians 4:5. Not in the lust of concupiscence, even as the Gentiles which know not God. Hebrews 12:16. Lest there be any fornicator or profane person as Esau, who for one morsel of meat sold his birthright. Revelation 22:15. For without are dogs and sorcerers and whoremongers and murderers and idolaters, and whosoever loveth and maketh a lie. Barnes. Verse, mortify therefore your members, since you are dead to sin in the world, and are to appear with Christ in the glories of his kingdom. Subdue every carnal and evil propensity of your nature. The word mortify means to put to death. Romans 8:13. Through the Spirit, by the aid of the Spirit, by cherishing and cultivating the influences. For if you live to indulge your carnal propensities, you will sink to eternal death. The meaning here is that they were entirely to subdue their evil propensities so that they will have no remains of life. That is, they are not at all to indulge them. The word members here refers to different members of the body, as a seat of evil desires and passions. They were wholly to extirpate those evil passions which he specifies as having their seat in the various members of the earthly body. Verse 13, neither yield ye members, do not give up or devote or employ your members, etc. The word members here refer to the members of the body, the hands, feet, tongue, etc. is a specification of what is in Romans 6:12. Let not sin therefore reign in your mortal body, that you shall obey it in the lust thereof. Is included under the general term body. Romans 7:5, for when we were in the flesh, the motions of sins which were by the law did work in our members to bring forth fruit unto death. Romans 7:23, but I see another law in my members, warring against the law of my mind, and bringing me into captivity to the law of sin which is in my members. 1 Corinthians 6:15, know ye not that your bodies are the members of Christ? Shall I then take the members of Christ and make them the members of an harlot? God forbid. 1 Corinthians 12:12, for as the body is one and had many members, and all the members of that one body being many are one body, so also is Christ. 1 Corinthians 12:18, but now hath God set the members every one of them in the body, as he hath pleased him. 1 Corinthians 12:20, but now are they many members, but one body. As instruments, this word properly signifies arms or implements of war, but it also denotes an instrument of any kind which used for defense or aid. Here it means that we should not devote our members, our hands, tongue, etc., as if under direction of sinful passions and corrupt desires, to accomplish purposes of iniquity. We should not make the members of our bodies the slaves of sin reigning within us. Inordinate evil. Romans 7:7. What shall we say then? Is the Is the law sin? God forbid, nay, I had not known sin but by the law, for I had not known lust except the law had said, thou shalt not covet. Romans 7:8. But sin, taking occasion by the commandment, wrought in me all manner of concupiscence. For without the law, sin was dead. Now these things were our examples, to the intent we should not lust after evil things as they also lusted. Be always doing it while you live in this world. It is true, great ground is obtained when the work is vigorously and constantly carried on. Sin is much weakened, so that the soul presses forward toward perfection, but ye, the work must be endless while we are in this world. If we give over, we shall quickly see this enemy exerting itself with new strength and vigor. We may have been ready to say that there was an end of sin, that it was dead and gone forever, perhaps under some great affliction, or it may be in some notable enjoyment of God, in the sense of the sweetness of blessed communion with Christ. But have we not found the contrary by experience? Has it not showed that it was only retire into some unsearchable recess of the heart? As to its in being and nature, though it may be greatly weakened in its power, let us then reckon on it that there is no way to have our work done but by always doing of it. He who dies fighting in this warfare dies assuredly a conqueror. Constant. Secondly, has indwelling sin its residence in that which is various, consistent, and deceitful above all things? This calls for constant watchfulness against it. An open enemy that deals by violence only always gives some rest. You know where to have him and what he is doing, so that sometimes you may sleep quietly without fear. But against adversaries that deal by deceit and treachery, which are long swords and reach the greatest distance, nothing will give security but constant watchfulness. It is impossible we should in this case be too jealous, doubtful, suspicious, or watchful. The heart has 1,000 wiles and deceits, and if we are in the least off from our watch, we may be sure to be surprised. Therefore, those repeated commands and cautions are given for watching, for being circumspect, diligent, careful, and the like. There is no living for them who have to deal with an enemy deceitful above all things, unless they persist in such a frame. All cautions that are given in this case are necessary, especially that of remember not to believe your own heart. Remember not to believe your own heart. Does the heart promise fair? Rest not on it, but say to the Lord Christ, Lord, do thou undertake for me. Does the sun shine fair in the morning? Reckon not therefore on a fair day. The clouds may arise and fall. Though the morning give a fair appearance of serenity and peace, turbulent affections may arise and cloud the soul with sin and darkness. Commit it to God. Thirdly, then, commit the whole matter with all care and diligence to him who can search the heart to the uttermost and knows how to prevent all its treacheries and deceits. In the things before mentioned lies our duty, but here lies our safety. There is no treacherous corner in our hearts, but he can search it to the uttermost. There is no deceit in them, but he can disappoint it. David takes his course in Psalm 139 after he had set forth the omnipresence of God and his omniscience. 139, 1 through 10. He makes improvement of it. Search me, O God, and try me. 139, 23. This is as if he had said, it is but a little that I know of my deceitful heart. Only I would be sincere, I would not have reserved for sin retained therein. Therefore, thou who art present with my heart, who knows my thoughts long before, undertake this work, perform it thoroughly, for thou alone art able to do. Chapter 4, Enmity against God. The carnal mind is enmity against God, for it is not subject to the law of God, neither indeed can be, in Romans 8:7. There are yet other arguments for the evidencing of the power and strength of indwelling sin, from which is in turn a law, that we must mention according to the order in which we laid them down before. We are considering three particular instances of indwelling sin's power, from some things that relate to it as such: its seat and subject, its natural properties, its operations and manner. We have seen the seat and subject of this law of sin, which is the heart. In the next place, we might take a view of its nature in general, which also will manifest its power and efficacy. This I will not enlarge upon, it not being my business to declare the nature of indwelling sin. It already has been done by others. I shall therefore, in reference to our special designing hand, only consider one property of it that belongs to its nature, and this always, wherever it is, this property is expressed by the apostle. The carnal mind is enmity against God. Romans 8:7. That which is here called the carnal mind, it is the Greek, the wisdom of the flesh, and is the same as the law of sin, which we insist on. Enmity. The nature of enmity. And what does the apostle say about this wisdom of the flesh? Where is it enmity against God? It is not only an enemy, it is where, if it were just an enemy, then some reconciliation to God possibly might be made. But it is enmity itself, and so not capable of accepting any terms of peace. Enemies may be reconciled, but enmity cannot. Yea, the only way to reconcile enemies is to destroy the enmity. So the apostle in another case tells us, when we were enemies, we were reconciled to God. Romans 5:10. That is a work achieved and brought about by the blood of Christ, the reconciling of the greatest enemies. But when he comes to speak of enmity, there is no way for it, but it must be abolished and destroyed, having abolished in his flesh the enmity. Ephesians 2:15, there is no way to deal with any enmity whatever but by its abolishment or destruction. Ephesians 2:15. In Ephesians 2:15, having abolished in his flesh the enmity, even the law of commandments contained in ordinances, for to making himself a twain one new man, so making peace. Ephesians 2:15, having abolished in his flesh the enmity, even the law of commandments contained in ordinances, for to making himself to twain one new man, so making peace. For as many as are of the works of the law are under the curse. For it is written, curses every one that continue not in all things which are written in the book of the law to do. The apostle in another case tells us when we were enemies, we were reconciled to God. Romans 5:10. That is a work achieved and brought about by the blood of Christ, the reconciling of the greatest enemies. But when he comes to speak of enmity, there is no way for it, but it must be abolished and destroyed, having abolished in his flesh the enmity. Ephesians 2:15. There is no way to deal with any enmity whatever, but by abolishment or destruction. And this also lies in it as it is enmity, that every part and parcel of it, if we may so speak, the least degree of it that can possibly remain in anyone, well, and where there is anything of its nature, is enmity still. It may not be so effective and powerful in operation as where it has more life and vigor, but it is enmity still, as every drop of poison is poison and will infect, and every spark of fire is fire and will burn. So is everything of the law of sin. The last and the least of it is enmity. It will poison, it will burn. That which is anything in the abstract is still so where it has any being at all. Our apostle, who may well be supposed to have made as great a progress in the subduing of the law of sin as anyone on the earth, yet cries out after all for deliverance as from an irreconcilable enemy. Romans 7:24. The most unadorned acting, the most imperceptible working of it, is the acting and working of enmity. Mortification reduces its force but does not change its nature. Grace changes the nature of men, but nothing can change the nature of sin. Whatever effect is wrought upon sin, there is no effect wrought in it. It is enmity still, sin still. This then, by sin, is our state and condition. God is love. 1 John 4:8. He is showing himself eternally excellent and desirable above all. He is sold to us in the blood of his Son and in all the inexpressible fruits of it, by which we are what we are, and in which all our future hopes and expectations are wrapped up. Against this God we carry about us enmity all our days, an enmity that has this from its nature, that it is incapable of cure or reconciliation. Destroyed it may be, it shall be, but cured it cannot be. If a man has an enemy to deal with who is too mighty for him, as David had with Saul, he may take the course that David did, to consider what is that provoked his enemy against him, and so address himself to remove the cause and make up his peace. If the Lord have stirred thee up against me, let him accept an offering, but if they be the children of men, cursed be they before the Lord. 1 Samuel 26:19. Come it from God or man, there is yet hope of peace. But when a man has enmity itself to deal with, nothing is to be expected but continual fighting, to the destruction of the one side or other. And enmity is not overcome and destroyed, it will overcome and destroy the soul. No compromise.